In 1970s, the world was a grid of cold, hard data. The Chinese National Census was designed to be a routine tally, but as the punch cards were fed into the central mainframe, the machines did something they were never designed to do: hesitate. A statistical anomaly was breathing deep in the Guizhou mountains. While the world succumbed to aging, these villagers lived forever. The government flagged it as a glitch, an impossible error. They sent a team of investigators to find the mistake. But the deeper they climbed, the more the mystery deepened. They found people over a century old, working the vertical slopes. They were swinging heavy iron tools with the strength of youth. The scientists began to question our understanding of the human clock. In this village, the reaper seemed to have lost his way. 100 years wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. The investigators looked for a fruit, a spring, or a miracle. Instead, they found that every kitchen had the same steaming pot. Every soul in the mountain drank a bitter, wild vine, a weed that grew in the cracks of the limestone rocks. They called it Jiaogulan, the poor man's ginseng. But this weed was doing what modern medicine could not. It was the secret to the village's impossible biological longevity. The researchers knew they were witnessing a biological revolution, a secret guarded by the mist for over a millennium. Now, the world was about to find out the truth. Which was real. There was a revelation. The census had discovered a village of immortals. And the key was hiding in plain sight. This was the beginning of the Nature Chronicles. A journey to rediscover what the modern world had forgotten. We are going back to the source. Are you ready? The researchers entered a landscape that felt like a different planet. Limestone pillars rose from the earth like the teeth of giants. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient secrets. They expected to find evidence of a massive clerical error. Instead, they found a village where aging had simply slowed down. There were no hospitals here, no pharmacies, and no modern clinics. Yet, the vitality of the elders was nothing short of miraculous. They moved with the fluid grace of people half their age. The scientists began to hunt for a singular, physical cause. They tested the water from the deep, hidden mountain springs. They analyzed the minerals in the rocks and the forest soil. But the springs were ordinary, and the soil was remarkably poor. The answer wasn't in the earth itself, but what grew from it. A vine that thrived where every other plant seemed to struggle. They noticed it was in every home, in every single cup. This wild weed was the only luxury these people possessed. The locals called it the herb of immortality, without a hint of irony. To them, it was as essential as the very air they breathed. It was time to take this weed into the light of science. The expedition was turning from a census into a biological hunt. The samples were packed into sterile containers, destined for the lab. The researchers felt the weight of what they were carrying. If the legends were true, they held the key to time. The census anomaly was about to become a global shockwave. From the silence of Guizhou to the noise of the modern world, the poor man's ginseng was entering the arena of high science. The world was oblivious to the miracle that was about to break. The first tests were scheduled for the morning. Would the weed survive the scrutiny of the microscopic eye? The revelation was only seconds away. The clock was reset. The lab in Tokyo was a fortress of glass and steel. A world away from the humid, mossy silence of Guizhou. The researchers prepared the Gynostemma for its first molecular trial. They expected it to be a simple, mild antioxidant. something to justify the village legends, but nothing more. But as the chemical breakdown began, the sensors spiked. The plant wasn't just healthy, it was chemically aggressive. It contained a class of compounds called saponins, the same building blocks that made ginseng the king of herbs. But where ginseng was a king, Gynostemma was a god. Ginseng possessed 28 of these longevity markers. Gynostemma was clocking in at over 80. It was a biological impossibility in a common mountain weed. The lead researcher stepped back, his skepticism completely shattered. He realized he wasn't looking at a supplement. He was looking at a biological shield against time. The poor man's ginseng was a title of irony. In reality, it was a wealth of health beyond calculation. The village wasn't lucky, they were biologically superior. They had been cultivating a secret that could break the world. The pandemic of aging finally had a formidable enemy. A weed that knew how to talk to the human heart. And the human heart was beginning to listen. The news of the discovery began to leak into the world. A gold rush was forming, but not for metal. The race was on for the Immortality herb. But the mountains of Guizhou are not easily conquered. Nature guards its most powerful secrets with thorns and mist. The investigation was over. The war for the weed had begun. And our story is just getting started. The lab results proved it was real. But real is dangerous. When you find a way to reset the human clock, you don't just find a plant, you find an enemy. In part 2, we go underground. We reveal why they called it the Immortality herb, and how a biological heist nearly buried this truth forever. The mist is lifting, but the war has just begun. Follow Nature to Living and subscribe. Your biological destiny is no longer a secret. It's a choice. See you in Act 2.